Hey everyone, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Or if you're new here, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all the latest Star Trek Discovery news on YouTube. Now I'm going to talk to you about episode 4 of Star Trek Discovery Season 3 entitled Forget Me Not. We had an interesting episode. All the stuff that's going on down at Trill with Adira and Burnham, and we had some team bonding stuff going on up on board the Discovery with Saru and crew having a bit of a banquet and just mulling over some of their emotional problems and getting a few things off their chest. So let's take a look through Forget Me Not. For starters, I wanted to say that this episode really did feel like a Star Trek episode to me. I'm not sure whether it was the fact that we had a peaceful mission down to a planet with what was going on with Burnham and the Trill down there, and there was obviously an element of familiarity, having seen a bit of Trill before in Deep Space Nine, or whether it was the scene with all of our crew members at the dining table together, bonding and having sort of a shared group kind of experience and becoming more of a team. It definitely felt more like a Star Trek episode to me than normal, probably because of that camaraderie that we felt in this episode. And we felt obviously a bonding and a friendship forming between Burnham and Adira. And we also felt a strengthening of our bridge crew together. And I think for that reason, this episode did definitely feel like it had a weight, more like the Star Treks of old, where all the crew members were like a family. And we really felt that in this episode. It's been one of my favourite episodes of the season so far for that reason. It was great to see Dr. Culber in this episode do some good old-fashioned honest doctoring for once. There have been so many episodes where Culber has really just got the screen time as the relationship dynamic between him and Stamets. I think that was a really good bump up for his character in this episode. We saw him obviously interacting with with Adira at the start, talking to Burnham, talking to Detmer and other members of the crew, concerned about their mental health, obviously their physical health being fine, but everybody's kind of just a little bit strung out perhaps. I guess it's another one of these parallels that we have between Discovery and 2020, where we're kind of, a lot of us are all stuck at home and, we're trying to stay healthy and stay safe. But from time to time, everybody's mental health is put under a bit of strain because of it and everything. And it's been a tough year. And you can kind of feel that the Discovery crew has gone through a tough experience as well. So it was good to see Culber dealing with that phenomenon and doing some good chief medical officer work here. I enjoyed the dynamic in this episode, watching the friendship bloom between Adira and Burnham. You can kind of tell that Burnham has been through a lot in the last year, and obviously Adira's been through a lot. And that was one of the reasons why that Culber suggested that Burnham accompany Adira down to Trill to get herself checked out by the Trill doctors and so forth to make sure everything's good and that they can perhaps potentially unlock the secrets within her mind. It's nice to see these two characters bonding together. The Adira character is really starting to grow on me, and this is only the second episode that she or they, whichever pronoun you want to choose. It's an interesting dynamic, and it'll be interesting to see this friendship blossom. It was good to learn a bit more about what's going on in the world of the Trill since we saw them last. Obviously, we got a little bit of history with the Trill back in Deep Space Nine days with Jadzia and Ezri Dax. But it seems like the burn has decimated the Trill to the point where there aren't that many viable hosts around anymore. So symbionts haven't got anywhere to live, it would seem. So the fact that Adira, a human, is the first ever human to host a Trill symbiont is a pretty big miracle according to Burnham and everything, but the Trill aren't so sure about this. They're more along the lines of it's an abomination and we got to separate them immediately, although the camps are a little bit divided between our friend in red and our other friend in yellow. But it's good to see the growing and expanding of the Star Trek history that was started back in DS9. And now we're getting a little bit more of that history fleshed out in this episode. And that's good to see. It was great to see the botanical gardens type location of Trill in this episode. It was a nice contrast to what we'd seen in the first couple of episodes with that very stark Icelandic location work that they did for the first couple of episodes, where it was all sort of black rocks and, you know, dirty looking kind of volcanic kind of environment. So seeing these botanical gardens represent the location of Trill was a nice change of location, I thought. I love the scene with Saru talking to the ship's computer about suggestions as to how to raise morale with the crew on the ship, and the computer suggesting colouring books and therapeutic shopping and yoga and all these sort of weird suggestions that were really quite played up for humour in this episode. And I think it was kind of the big laugh out loud moment. You could kind of see the frustration on Saru's face going through all these lists of things that aren't quite what he had in mind, but still us as the audience found them, quite humorous. And here we get a change of tack from the ship's computer to the sphere data. Now, Saru doesn't see the sphere data pop up on the screen. When he turns to look at the computer, and by that stage it's changed back to the normal interface. But still, it would seem like the sphere data is somewhat sentient. And it has a sense of humour, and it has sort of opinions and thoughts of its own. So it will be very interesting to see in future episodes where this trail leads. Watching the bridge crew all go around saying aye and kind of renewing their commitment to having made the decision to follow Burnham on her journey to the 32nd century. It was nice to see that kind of group camaraderie between the crew. We don't get a great deal of those moments of family, I think, with the crew of Discovery as a whole. So it was really nice to get that in this episode. I think there was quite a few moments in this episode where they had some real heartfelt moments of character growth, both in scenes with Adira and Burnham, but also with Saru and the bridge crew up on Discovery having their banquet dinner. The show is really starting to come into its own, and that familiarity of family and friendship between the crew members is certainly starting to come much more to the forefront than it has in the previous 2 seasons of Discovery. It was great to see the caves of Makala in this episode. We haven't seen them since that episode of Deep Space Nine. I think it was called Equilibrium, where Jadzia Dax went to have some, memories reawakened of one of the former hosts that the memory had been repressed. And they did a great job of maintaining the look of these caves, but enhancing them even more so for this episode of Discovery. It's great to see moments like this in Discovery. I think it really works well when they take something we've seen before, like the pools of Makala from Deep Space Nine, and bring it into Discovery. I think people would have kind of been naysayers in the past and who've kind of gone, oh, Discovery is not proper Star Trek, and it's not real Star Trek, it's not proper Star Trek, whatever their gripe is, I'm not sure. I think when you take something that's established in canon like this and bring it into Discovery, it helps ground the show. And make it feel more like Star Trek. I think that's probably another element of when I said at the start, this felt more like a Star Trek episode. I think the fact that it had that tie back to something we've already seen in Deep Space Nine definitely grounded it more in the Star Trek universe, I think, from that aspect as well. So great to see the caves. So during our banquet with the main bridge crew up on Discovery, in the midst of having a bit of a dinner party game in the form of coming up with haikus, Detmer has a bit of a meltdown and can't stop talking about Stamos's blood on the medbay floor that can't get scrubbed off or something. So she's kind of going a bit loopy, I think. There's definitely some weird PTSD issues and so forth going on with her. In fact, before long, all of the crew are having a bit of a meltdown and kind of getting on each other's nerves and bickering about this and that and everything. And before long, everybody leaves the table, and poor old Saru, he's left there by himself. He tried to have a nice dinner party, but all the kids are just fighting at, Christmas dinner, so to speak. I love the introduction of the Grey character here, where it seems like we get a bit more information about the backstory of Adira, and that her and Grey were on board a Starfleet or Federation ship that was a generational ship. They were, obviously cut off from the rest of the Federation and Starfleet because of the burn, and they were trying to find Starfleet headquarters or the Federation headquarters again. And it seems like there was an incident on board where obviously Admiral Senatal passed away. Grey was the Trill on board, and the symbiont was passed to him. This seems like it was a very, very brief event. It almost seems like the symbiont was only in Gray for maybe a few days or perhaps a week at the most before there was a catastrophic event on board this ship where it looks like a asteroid or a meteor or some large piece of rocky space debris impacted the hull of the ship, the window that was shattered in the room where Gray and Adira were in, and Gray ended up impaled on a piece of broken glass. And therefore, the only nearest person that could take the symbiont at the time was Adira. So it barely seems like Gray had the symbiont in him for very long at all. It was a really nice series of flashbacks, even though, you know, this is the first time we've seen Gray, and only really the second time we've seen Adira in an episode. They were really heartfelt scenes, and I felt they really did tug on the heartstrings, evoke an emotional response. I found myself really emotionally invested in their story and where they had come from and everything and their history. It was a tender series of scenes, and I think the actors and the director of this episode did a really good job of making us feel empathy for these characters in these scenes. So well done on that behalf. And finally, Adira gets her memories back, and we get to see all of her previous hosts. It's cool to see, obviously there's a couple of Starfleet officers as former hosts of the symbiont Tal, going back as far as Jean-Luc Picard's era, as we see a captain in Starfleet wearing the same kind of uniform that we saw previously in Star Trek Picard. And we saw a couple of other Starfleet uniforms, one being worn by a female and another one being worn by Admiral Senna Tal. Their names being Kasha Tal, Jovar Tal, Medela Tal, Kara Tal, Senna Tal, Gray Tal, and Adira Tal. And we get a nice scene at the end here where Saru is kind of lamenting the fact that his dinner party kind of didn't really work out. Tilly kind of says, you know, don't worry about it. It was just like a Tuesday night at my family's house growing up, which I thought was kind of funny. Stamets comes in and there's apologies all around. There's some bonding in this episode. I like the movie night scene at the end with all the crew getting together to watch the Buster Keaton film that had been suggested by the Sphere Data. Clever Sphere Data, clever Sphere. Everybody seemed to be having a great time. A few little emotional moments in this scene with the crew bonding again with one another. The only thing that was missing from this scene, I think it would have been nice if somebody had have said, you know, I heard they used to do this on the very first Enterprise under Captain Archer. A little comment like that would have been a nice little cherry on top for this scene. But that's okay. It was a good scene anyway. And now that Adira has her memories of her previous hosts back, and they know the coordinates for Federation headquarters. They didn't actually say at the end of this episode what planet they were heading to, or whether they knew what system or whatever Federation headquarters were in, but they know where they're going, and it looks like next week we're off to Federation HQ to see what is going on with them and Starfleet. All in all, I really enjoyed this episode. Great emotional episode, some really good character development, some really, heartfelt scenes. It's so good to see it in this show. It's the one thing that Discovery has been probably lacking a little bit of over the first couple of seasons, that sense of family. I think this episode has really kind of shown to me that Discovery is now, without a doubt, part of the Star Trek franchise. There's no doubt anymore for all those poo-pooers and naysayers that go, oh, bloody Discovery, it's not proper Star Trek, or there's no doubt in my mind anymore that, these characters have grown on me. There's an emotional attachment. There are threads of Discovery that link back to previous Star Trek series and everything. I think this was a really good episode. Great to see Trill. Great to see the caves of Makala again. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy the episode? Did you think it had a much more ingrained Star Trek feel about it than previous episodes? One of my favourites so far, I think, this season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, to share, to check out merchandise like this one, where you can go to my merch store. Great other Star Trek designs for you to check out as well. And also feel free to click on all of my other videos if you haven't seen any of them. And I'll catch you guys very, very soon for my next review.